Hello, 大家好. Hi. Yeah. So the last time I did this talk, the conference hall actually suffered a power outage. So I hope it doesn't happen again this time. So anyway, I'll be doing the talk in English, but there will be Chinese words on the slides. I hope I did the translations correctly. If I didn't, please forgive me and help me correct it, after my talk. Thank you. So firstly, I want to say I love Taiwan. Why Taiwan? I really love the food over here. So I came over here a few years ago to actually, do a vacation over here, and this is one of my favorite food at the night market. So this is Gua Bao. I arrived on Wednesday actually and went to Shiling night market, but they don't have it. So I'm still trying to find it in one of the night markets here. Hopefully I can get it within the next 2 days or so. And I even went up He Huan Shan. So it was really an adventure for me and my wife at that time. Okay, a little bit more about myself. My name is Winston. That's my Twitter account. So please feel free to follow me on Twitter. Yeah. And I'm from Singapore. So it took about 4 hours to get here actually. But I didn't come straight from Singapore this time. I actually came from Japan because I was in Hokkaido RubyConf over the last weekend. So I actually flew from Singapore to Japan, and then Japan back to Taiwan, and I'll be going back to Singapore after that. I organize the monthly Ruby meetups, so you should be able to find us easily if you go up to meetup.com and search for Singapore Ruby Group. So the next time you're in Singapore, please feel free to join us. We usually have meetings every month on a Tuesday, which Tuesday is sort of random, depending on when I'm free right now, but it will happen every month. So please, come join us the next time you come to Singapore. At the same time, I'm also the organizer of RubyConf. It's the annual Ruby conference in Singapore. So this year is actually happening on June 26 and 27, which is a Thursday and Friday. You'll be able to hear from folks like Aaron Patterson, Peter Sonica, Koichi, and Konstantin Haas. So if you like all these people and you want to see even more Ruby heroes on stage, please check us out at red.rubyconf.com. So I really hope to see you guys at the conference this year. At the same time, recently I've also started this website called rubyasia.com. It's a fortnightly curated newsletter for Ruby news and articles from around Asia. So if you subscribe to Ruby Weekly newsletter, it's sort of similar but focused largely on Asia content. So if you or your company write about Ruby, please send me your blog links so that I can share it with the subscribers of the newsletter. It doesn't matter if it's in English or Mandarin, I will still put up the links on the website because that's what the purpose of the newsletter is for. So next issue should be out on Monday, so watch out for it. So some of you might know I'm actually an ex-Pivot, which means for the last 3 years I was with Pivotal Labs Singapore, which was later acquired by Digital Garage to form Neo Innovations. You probably have heard of Neo Innovations because of our dear Jim Wyrick, who belong to the same company. So while I was at Pivotal Labs, I've actually worked on websites like Viki.com, which is a crowdsourced video fansub website recently acquired by Rakuten, and also Friendster.com. So I was actually working out from Manila because the development team is in Manila for about a month or so during those days. So the days as a pivot means that I spent almost every day practicing agile processes like pair programming, test-driven development, continuous integration, continuous deployment, etc. So that workplace was really optimized for engineers' happiness, and that was really my inspiration. I wanted to spread that idea that software engineering can be a fulfilling and happy career as well. So I founded Jolly Good Code last November, and my mission is to make software engineers happy. First, by teaching them about Ruby, which we all know is a fun and productive language, and secondly, by sharing practices that will make all of us happy. Hence my talk for today, happy teams, because I want each and every one of us to be happy. So what is a happy team? Having worked with a number of startups in the last couple of years, I've experienced and seen how happy teams and unhappy teams actually work. Based on my experience, these are the common characteristics I see of happy teams. So firstly, they are driven and highly motivated for success because they want to make the company or the product work. They work together towards a common goal, and they stick together to get things done. They are also passionate about their work, and they put in the extra effort. They enjoy and have pride in their work, and every day they look forward to coming to work. They communicate frequently and openly with one another. And finally, they are also caring towards one another. So, do any of these sound familiar to you? Is your team exhibiting any of these characteristics? So, why build happy teams? Simply because happy teams work better and faster. They are efficient and they ship the product out of the door. Happy teams attract and retain people. People will want to join the team because they want to join the fun. And the people who are already in the team want to continue staying on because work doesn't feel like work anymore. And it gives them immense pleasure and excitement to do the thing they love every single day. When people are passionate about and enjoy their work, they will naturally take ownership of their work. This means they will think like managers and do what's best and what's right for the team. Ultimately, happy teams are more likely to be successful, and that is why it's important to actually build happy teams. So, can I just have a quick show of hands? How many of you feel that you are working in a happy team? Okay, so that's not a lot. Okay, which is good, which is why you're coming to my talk, right? Yeah. So, how many of you would like to work in a happy team? Fine, more of you. Very good. So, I want to be happy. I want to work in a happy team as well. Because think about it. What do you spend your day doing? Probably 8 hours sleeping, 8 hours with family on hobbies, and another 8 hours working. Well, some of us even work more than 8 hours a day, so 10 hours, 12 hours, right? So given that we spend so much time on our work, it should be logical that we try to optimize that piece over there, right? So how should we feel when we are working? Should we feel happy or sad? I would choose happy. But how can we all get to work in happy teams? Do we all go find happy teams to work for? Well, that could be an option, so you could just quit your job and go find a happy team to work for. But how about let's also try and transform the team that we are working in to be a happy team? But how do we do that? So, how many of you have heard of the Joel-Spolsky test? Alright, some of you. So that's the test to actually test, to rate the quality of software engineering teams. Having worked with a number of startups in the last couple of years, I've experienced and seen firsthand how practices or the lack of practices can actually affect the emotional well-being of a team. So in the spirit of the Joel-Spolsky test, I thus came up with my own highly opinionated and totally unscientific checklist for building happy teams. It's available on GitHub actually, and I would love pull requests for suggestions on what you believe would be a happy team as well. Spend some time to think about it. What makes you happy at work right now? And I'm not just talking about having an awesome pantry with a lot of food and drinks. I'm really talking about the practices and processes that you do that will motivate and keep the team together. So what are some of those things that is occurring right now in your work? Share it with me, share it with others, and hopefully we can build this checklist together and to help make more happy teams. So this is the checklist. You might want to use this checklist to review your current company processes, or to even use this checklist as a benchmark for the next company you want to join. I have a disclaimer though. I don't guarantee that following all of this will make your team happy, because unfortunately there's no guard against bad products or bad managers. But I strongly believe that if you get most of these things correct, all else equal, you have a team that's consistently happier. So let's go through each of these one by one. Hire for the right fit. What kind of engineers will fit your company culture? Do you need researchers, doers, pair programmers, or remote workers? Having answers to these questions will really help you make the right hire. Also, make sure that your team is actually comfortable with the candidate before making the actual hire. Otherwise, the team will just not be as effective over time because of a lot of communication issues. You can get the candidate to have lunch or even do a presentation to the team during the interview process to make sure that the team is entirely comfortable with having him or her on board. So, to quote a story that I had, once I had a client, they actually hired a team of 4. What did they build? They spent a year building pretty much nothing. As a startup, they required doers, not researchers. But one of the team members preferred to debate about the merits of different technologies and to come up with proof of concepts rather than getting the actual work done and out of the door. So the team couldn't be productive at all, and everyone was really affected somehow. But over time, when we told the client what's going on and they eventually let the team member go, the morale of the team immediately improved and everything just started working together. And the team immediately shipped some things out the door in the next month or so. So it was really good. Realistic planning. So what do I mean by realistic planning? By that, I would mean that engineers actually estimate the effort required to do their work, while managers will prioritize the effort. So engineers should be the one who estimate the time and complexity of each engineering task, while managers should be responsible for prioritizing engineering tasks to fit the management timelines. I've seen a lot of startups and companies who actually work the team using Gantt charts, without consulting the team on the amount of effort actually required to do something. I don't know how, but the managers always seem to be able to come up with some numbers magically from the air, maybe from some random number generator or something. But in most cases, these estimates are usually wrong, and worse, they become a commitment for the engineers to follow without even consulting them at all. And this only resulted in unnecessary stress and tension on all levels. So that's not something you want to do for a happy team. Open communication. So happy teams should also encourage a lot of these open communications. Using tools like HipChat or Campfire to encourage open communication in the teams. Try not to use the private chats, but to have most, if not all, of the conversations in open chat rooms, so that it's easier for everyone on the team to chip in and help. Of course, if you sit next to each other and you have frequent chit chats, that would be best. So as team members, be open to suggestions and feedback to improve oneself. Be constructive, don't criticize, learn to communicate well, and everyone on the team will be happy. Daily status updates. So things like daily status updates include daily stand-ups or even show and tell at the end of the day. So during these regular meetings, 5-minute meetings, you can talk about helps or interesting things that you have as you were doing your work for the day before, or you can talk about what did I do yesterday and what I'm going to do today. You can do a quick demo on the progress at the end of the day or of the week to your fellow team members or even to the management team. And it's also even an opportunity for management to actually update the team on what's going on in their world, because as developers, most of the time, you're not sure what your manager is actually doing, right? So just to be clear, these status updates doesn't have to be synchronous, like you don't really need to sit together for that 5 minutes every single day. There are also asynchronous ways to actually capture these details. For example, there's this tool called idonethis.com, so you can check it out. At the end of the day, it will send you an email which you reply to about what you have done for the day, and it will collect all of the team members' responses and then send it out to the team the next day. So it can also be done through other project management tools. I've seen companies that rely on Basecamp to actually write status updates in there at the end of the day before they go home. So whatever you use, do make it a company culture to do so, because this actually builds trust with management, because management always don't know what you're doing as well, and vice versa, right? It builds visibility into the engineering work and the team, and people don't second guess one another. So I've seen a lot of teams who don't do this, and the team just break down in communication totally. Nobody knows what each other is doing, and people will just start to disconnect from the focus of the company. Code review or pair programming. So do you do code review or do you do pair programming? Or does the team believe that neither is important? As an engineer, I care about the code that I write. So I want to be good in my craft, improve myself every day, and actually build better products. I want the team that I work with to care about all of these as well, not just about deadlines. So I believe that this is the same for most other engineers, right? We want to be in a team that does great engineering and spurs each other on to do great stuff every single day. So code review or pair programming is not a process to frustrate or slow down the team. In fact, it's an indication that the team actually cares about code quality. So I don't know about you, but for me, I definitely would be much happier in the team who take pride in their work. So personally, I would choose pair programming because I've been doing it for the last 3 years, and I believe that it's really like code review on steroids. You get to learn so much more within the day, although it can be very tiring as well. But even though a normal code review process can't provide as much as a pair programming session, it is still a good replacement if you can't do pair programming on your team, because pair programming is not for everyone. I assume that you are either using GitHub or Bitbucket or some sort of version control, and you can start by practicing the Git branch pull request model to get your peers to start doing some code review before you merge in the new code. Start making everyone on the team care about the code more, and I assure that this will make everyone very happy. What about code style guides? So a consistent code style and structure means your code base will be easier to understand and navigate. Jumping onto a piece of code you have never worked on before will not be that daunting, because the structure of it will be familiar and similar to the rest of the application. Even code syntax decisions like tabs or spaces will help to resolve the ambiguity when working on the app. So you don't need to argue about which to use, as it's already a set standard for the team. When you have less ambiguity, you will have higher productivity. When you have higher productivity, you will have a happier team. So examples of these are like the GitHub Ruby style guide, or even like Bootstrap, where it is a CSS style guide for ways to implement certain DOM elements. So try doing that in your company as well. What about test-driven development? Okay, I know this is a hot topic, right? Because DHH just said that, oh, you don't do test-driven development anymore. Maybe I should change the context of this slide to be at least write tests. But I still believe a lot in doing this, and in writing tests. Because I think that it's not only about the test itself. It is designed to make us think about our code before we actually write it. And the goal of TDD, if you do it right, is actually for better software design. And tests are just a byproduct. Of course, when I say, when you do it right, it doesn't mean you have to be a zealot and do it like with a lot of service objects, patterns, etc., etc. But to do it pragmatically, with balance, right? Balance based on your experience and based on what's pragmatic. So with better software design, your app will be more resilient to changes and bugs, and make development on large projects actually easier, because you can work on new features or refactor with a peace of mind, as what Medic had said earlier. So tests will also make the next person who's going to look at your code smile, because he or she don't have to second guess what you were trying to do with your code. So in other words, it's like live documentation. In another sense, I feel that tests are an act of pride and accountability and responsibility towards your code. Because working in such a team who cares about the code quality will only bring you happiness every single day. So another true story, I actually have a shameful past where in my previous job, I didn't really write any test. And I was actually building a billing app, dealing with money, a lot of money. So every now and then, I would go back and ask, the previous company that I worked for, hey, how is the app? Is it still working? Are you guys still using it? So far, I haven't heard anything disastrous. So it seems to be still working, even though it doesn't have any tests. So that's a relief. But at the same time, I've heard that they had difficulty actually changing anything because they always have the fear of breaking something. So most of the time, they are just adding on top of the additional code. They're just doing patches and patches and patches. So till this day, I somehow feel a little bit guilty about it. And so I never really want to feel that kind of guilt anymore when I work on my future projects, which is why I always want to do test-driven development, or at least write tests right now whenever I'm on a project. So try TDD, or try writing tests. It will make the team happy, or even make the managers happy, because you'll be so much more productive in the long run. Your managers should actually insist that you do it as well, if they are interested in running the business for a long, long time. So if you practice TDD, this is sort of a follow-up to that, you should be doing continuous integration and continuous deployment as well. And there are many tools out there that does this really well for you. For example, Travis CI, CodeShip, Semaphore, Circle CI, Jenkins. If the team is doing, writing tests but not doing any CI or CD, then the build is probably broken 50% of the time. Because that's what I've experienced on projects as well, where we actually do write tests, but somehow or rather, we didn't have a CI for a long, long time because of various reasons. And the result was that people start to check in bad code that fails the build. But it became tedious to actually hunt down which commit was the one which broke the build. Turns out that actually one of the tech lead was the one checking in such bad code all the time. But if we had CI in the first place, it would have solved a lot of our headaches. Automation is also important in making the team productive and making the team happy. So we want to be productive and focus on what's important. Automate the hell out of your everyday workflow. So what can you automate? You should automate things like your dev machine setup, or for new hires or for new projects. You should automate your staging and production server setup, dump production data to development, or even your code review workflow. So you can use things like Code Climate, Simple Carve, Rails Best Practices, Gem, etc. And even your deployment workflow. So whatever you can think of, spend some time to automate it. Then you will have a happy team because working will just become a very delightful experience. Team learning activities. So do this every day on a specific, do this every week on a specific day. It can be like a company-sponsored lunch, you can order in or split the bill. But what you can do during these team learning activities is to get someone in the team to talk about maybe an interesting feature that they have built, a new technology coding paradigm that they have picked up, or even conduct code refactoring sessions, or just watch a video together, be it Railscast or Confreaks. The point is, group learning activity helps to bond the team, and it builds a learning culture and grows everyone's skills together, which is a valuable investment on the employees. Conduct regular feedback sessions as well. In the Agile speak, there's this practice called retrospective, which is essentially a feedback session for all stakeholders of the team, held once every few weeks or after every major milestone. So it's very simple. It can be just going through the happy, sad, or not so sure things that occurred during the entire period, and to come out with actionables to actually fix the items mentioned in the sad column, so that in the next feedback session, the same sad items doesn't get repeated again. In my experience, this is the single most effective way to make your team happy, because it's an avenue for everyone to speak their mind without prejudice and focus on the issues and not the individuals. An avenue for everyone to listen to and also act on the things that are making the team sad. So for example, you can appreciate someone on the team as a happy item, or talk about the no testing subculture in the team as a sad item. And finally, the last thing on the checklist is to go home, because the happy teams means you go home. You go home and spend time with your family and recharge. because rest is very important to us. A happy team is one that is productive without death much, and one that encourages you to go do something outside of your work so that you will improve yourself as an individual. A happy team is also one that cares about you as a person and not you as a worker, and would definitely want you to go home and stay healthy. So once again, the full checklist on the GitHub as well. In essence, I believe that to build happy teams, you need to have practices or processes that give your team purpose in their work, be it through the right hire, realistic planning, open communication. You also need to protect and nurture your team's passion in their software engineering craft through code review, test-driven development, CI, CD, etc. And finally, you need to show care and empathy for growth and well-being of the team through learning retrospectives. So with all of this together, I believe then you would get, a happy team. So with that, thank you. And any questions? You can clap first. Thank you. Okay, you can ask questions first. Thank you. Yes, questions?
Thank you for talking. I'm Sato Mitsuda from Osaka, Japan. And I totally agree with your checklist. I think so too. But I'm wondering about some people think changing is scary. For example, you didn't write test before, but you know the test is wonderful. But you now, why can you actually change the style? Or how do you think about the scare about changing?
Okay. Yeah, so the question is, change is scary. How do we encourage change to happen within the team? Yes, I agree, change is really scary. And you actually need a lot of management support as well, or even some champion within the management team to help push changes sometimes. So I believe it would be good if you can get at least buy-in from the management first to actually believe in what you're about to do and to support you in whatever changes you want to make. At the same time, so I've listed 12 things, right? So don't try and do all 12 things at the same time. Maybe you can start with going home first. But yeah, don't do 12 things at the same time. Maybe you can start tackling one at a time. Like maybe you can start doing the team learning activities first, which would be not so intensive to get everyone involved, and it's very lightweight. It's just, hey, come on, let's have lunch together and watch a video or do a talk or something. And slowly through each of these, then layer on the other changes that you would like to see. For example, like test-driven development, if you can actually get a mentor to help you guys get into that practice, I think it would be great. Because if not, you want to start on your own, it will also be very daunting and very scary. Especially when sometimes I know the thing is you don't really know where to start in the first place. So if you can get someone to help guide you along in some of these practices, that would be best, I feel, in encouraging the change. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I'm actually the one who held up with my hand with unhappy team. I think I'm a unhappy team.
Which one didn't you check?
Actually, what my question is, because the unhappy reason is my coworker. Yeah, actually, I don't think he don't want to follow something over there. Yeah, so he don't like to open communicate. He don't like to follow the code style guide, and he don't like to code review or something like that. So I think, yeah, even like TDD, he hates it. He hates it. So what can I do? I'm his manager, so I don't know. So yeah.
Okay. Do you manage him only, or do you have a team that you manage?
Yeah, actually just one guy I'm managing.
Okay. So I think since you're the manager, you obviously believe in a lot of these that will help, the company
yes.
or even him individually as a developer. I think it's time for you guys to sit down and do some retrospectives or even feedback session to be honest with each other on what you feel is not working within the team, even though it's only just two of you. And realign it with the whole focus of the company or even just the team alone. So like I said, there are a lot of books about retrospectives in the agile world on how they're actually conducted. The simplest way that you can do it is to do it on a whiteboard. Just draw 3 columns: happy face, sad face, and not so sure face. And just take a few minutes to actually list down what you're happy about. Not about the person specifically, but try to focus on the job itself, the work itself, so that you're not really blaming him or anything. We are not trying to criticize individuals over here, but take out those points and even happy points. What you're happy about with the work he's doing, etc. And tell him to give you his feedback as well about what he thinks of you. So there's not only a one-way communication. I think that's the first way to establish open communication between both parties, and then to realign on what you believe is the vision and mission of the team and how the things you do can help to affect that. And also to sell it to him that some of these techniques will actually improve you as a software engineer to make you even more valuable if next time you want to go and find another job. That's what I truly believe in. And at the same time, if he's the only developer right now, it could be even true that he would probably be the team lead next time if you hire even more developers. I don't know, this is just hypothesis. So sell it to him that if he's going to be the team lead, he needs to lead by example. Is this how he wants the team to be run? In terms of building a good software engineering team. So that is what I believe I would try to do, but to divert it from criticizing him specifically, but to make it more of alignment to the company's vision and goal.
Okay, is there any question? Just one more question since the time is pretty... Okay, so next session was... Oh, sorry.
Do you have any suggestion about code review? Because I don't think it's a happy experience for...
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I couldn't
It's
see.
about the code review.
Code review?
Yes.
Do you have any suggestion?
Suggestions?
How to do code review, yeah.
Okay, so if you do the GitHub, like Git branch pull request, I think that's the easiest way to get started in terms of doing code review. It would be good if you can have already established some kind of code style guides so that you do not have a lot of ambiguity in that, especially when, for example, code review, sometimes you can go down the level of, oh, why using tabs? You should be using spaces, or vice versa. So if you have already established that, that would be very simple. And things like, oh, we need to remove empty spaces at the end of the line, or leave a line at the end of the whole file. So if you already have that, that would be easy to do in terms of recommending that, okay, we all follow these kind of style guides specifically. Then on the other hand, there's also the higher level code review where you probably need a more senior engineer to actually look at the code and to figure out if the architecture is correct, the structure is correct in terms of the code that the developer has been writing. If you are not so sure, then maybe not only one person can do the code review, like the whole team can be doing the entire code review as well, so that it's not only one single person's opinion. So yeah, if you're not using GitHub, like Bitbucket also has that. I think there are even like open source tools that is separate from GitHub or Bitbucket that helps you run the code review process. So you can try those as well.
Okay, thanks. So the next section will be starting